Not long ago, I talked about how everyone was a little bit worried that Joe Rogan was going to be censored by Spotify after a ton of employees came forward and were furious that some of his edgy content was still up on the platform. They were actually planning a pretty dramatic walkout because they weren't getting their way that Spotify wouldn't censor Joe Rogan, and now we're finally seeing a very bizarre situation happen surrounding Joe Rogan and Spotify, because Alex Jones was actually recently on his podcast. Now, when we all saw that Alex Jones was going to be on the Joe Rogan Experience, I think that we all kind of had that bad feeling that it was going to be the center of a big situation. So having him on the podcast would of course stir up a little bit of controversy on social media, just because he's such a controversial figure. But for almost a day, this episode of Alex Jones being on the Joe Rogan Experience had magically vanished from Spotify, and even Joe Rogan has spoken out about the situation, saying it's a little bit convenient that Spotify's platform has been apparently having issues with only this episode because people were talking about how it was missing for about 24 hours and then it suddenly reappeared, but a lot of people are still having problems actually playing the episode, and Joe Rogan has said it's a little bit suspicious that when one of the most controversial figures on the internet is on his platform, suddenly it's just not working properly. So I'm going to be referencing a reclaimthenet.org article. Alex Jones' Joe Rogan episode magically disappears from Spotify. So there is a little bit of an update, but I want to go through the initial article when it was first posted, and then we will get into the update, which touches on Joe Rogan's thoughts on the whole situation. So episode 1555 on the Joe Rogan Experience has magically disappeared from Spotify after complaints about Rogan interviewing Alex Jones and comedian Tim Dillon. The episode was released on Tuesday, October 27th, and is still available on YouTube. However, as of the time of writing, Spotify appears to have pulled the episode as it is not currently appearing in the lineup. Now, like I said, there is a little bit of an update because Joe Rogan commented on the situation, but right now the episode is technically up on Spotify, but I do want to preface that with there are a lot of people who can still not access it. It is not allowing them to play it. There are just a lot of people in general still having a lot of problems with this episode. Pretty convenient, am I right? So some people were tweeting out, Stephen Lavira here said, at Spotify remove the recent Alex Jones and Tim Dillon episode, number 1555 off Joe Rogan Experience on their feed, and as you can see, we had the 1554 episode with Kanye West, and then the 1556 episode with Glenn Greenwald. Tim Dillon had actually tweeted it out because it was blowing up so much, and he said, "You just can't have fun anymore." And then, of course, he did link a clip with Alex Jones and him kind of talking, and then people were saying, at Tim Dillon, at Joe Rogan, I think it's still missing from Spotify. Now, the article continues on with, not only did Alex Jones and InfoWars get banished from all major centralized social networks last year, but the two episodes where he was a guest on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast had also disappeared from the archives when Rogan moved his podcasting business to Spotify in September. That's why it was a huge surprise to many in his audience to see Jones return to Rogan's show once again on Tuesday. It was a pretty good episode. I listened to most of it, but it was pretty good. I mean, I don't agree with everything Alex Jones says. Hey, I don't even agree with everything that Joe Rogan says, but you gotta give it to these guys. Joe Rogan knows how to put on an amazing podcast, and Alex Jones definitely knows how to grab people's attention. Anyway, continuing on with the article, on the face of it, asking Jones back shouldn't be controversial considering that the two previous episodes with him as a guest were among the most popular podcast episodes of all time, one of them receiving 22 million views on YouTube and millions of audio downloads. But ever since Rogan's exclusivity deal with Spotify, signed back in May, worth 100 million buckaroonies, came into effect last month, he has been under pressure from more radical, intolerant employees of the streaming giant who criticized his past choices of guests like Alex Jones, whose episodes were among those initially removed. So yes, Spotify has in the past removed some of Joe Rogan's content. Now there is an update, like I said, where Joe Rogan actually came forward and made a little bit of a statement, which I do want to read. So it says, update at 11 p.m. Eastern, Joe Rogan has issued the following statement. The episode was uploaded to Spotify, had some cache issues, and it wasn't working correctly on some devices, so the engineers had Jamie re-upload it with the same date, thinking it would fix the problem and still play for everyone like it was never missing. Didn't quite work out, which led to my phone getting hit up by people thinking it was removed. It works as of now, but some folk are still having trouble seeing it. They're working on it. This is the line that got me. It is, however, fucking classic and amazing that this glitch only shows up in the Alex Jones episode. This is what I was thinking as well, and this is what a lot of people are thinking now, that it is working for some people, but it's still broken for others. We already know that there's a lot of activists inside of Spotify. They've gotten Joe Rogan's content censored in the past, and even recently, so who knows how many people internally there are who are trying to, in a sense, take this issue, or what they deem as an issue at least, into their own hands and find ways to have his content continue to be censored. In my opinion, it really sounds like this might have been an inside job by these activist employees who really dislike Joe Rogan, but also really dislike Alex Jones. Now, this could turn out to be a massive situation if this episode goes down again, or if it is still not up for a lot of people, because right now a lot of people are still saying, I can't access it, it says that it's there, but it's locked, I can't watch it. So, if this episode goes down again, or if any other Joe Rogan content suddenly vanishes off the platform, I think this is going to turn out to be a huge situation. Agree or disagree with people like Alex Jones, it's Joe Rogan's show and he should be allowed to interview whoever he wants. It's not Spotify's employees' decision, and from what we see, and from these people making these PR statements at Spotify, they're trying to say that they would never censor his content and they want to respect him and it's his platform in a sense and he can choose his guests. But even Joe Rogan thinks this whole situation is pretty suspicious, and I agree. It seems really bizarre and oddly timed that we were just hearing about mass walkouts over the Joe Rogan experience, and now his content is suddenly vanishing, and this one specific episode is having a ton of problems. Of course, we all know that they'll never admit that it was an employee or that it wasn't a technical error. Any statements that we see from them will only ever claim it was a technical error, even if it was bullshit. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below, but if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like and share it, and of course if you did not, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.